Welcome to Indigo Audiobooks. Today's reading is Lies by Osamu Dazai. If you enjoy this, please like and subscribe for more audiobooks. Now that the war is over, many people are talking loudly and brazenly about various isms. I don't believe in any of them. I think we can rebuild our country if men would stop telling lies and women would stop being greedy. I delivered myself of this stupid opinion to one of my former classmates, who had come to visit me at my brother's house in Suguru. It is the house where I was born, and my family and I were living there, after my own house in Tokyo had been burned down by the air raids. My friend was a person holding a respectable position in that country town. In those days, I was depressed and unhappy, so it seemed I had to give vent to my feelings by expressing opinions like that. My friend just laughed and said, "Yes, I agree. But I wonder if you shouldn't rather put it the other way round. You should say, if men would stop being greedy, and women would stop telling lies." He spoke these words in a surprisingly confident tone. I flinched and asked, "But why so?" "Well, it may be all the same in the long run. But you know, a woman's lies can be extraordinary. Last New Year I had an appalling experience. Ever since then, I've not been able to put my trust in any woman. Even my wife, such a slovenly old bag, may have another man somewhere. I have to face it. Nobody can make hard and fast rules about women." He told me this in a serious tone of voice. Then let me hear the following confidential tale about an incident that had taken place in this country town. In the story, I denotes my friend himself, 37 years old, a person in a respectable position. I am able to reveal this to you now, but before the war ended, it was top secret. The only persons in this town who knew of this incident were the police chief and me. The police chief, by the way, has now been transferred, but he was a good man. Well, at New Year, there was a lot of snow all over the country. Here we had the biggest snow in decades. The snow piled so high, we could touch the overhead electric wires. The trees in gardens were smashed and the walls were overturned. Some houses were crushed. The damage looked as if it had been caused by a big flood. Snowstorms kept blowing so hard for 20 days on end that all the traffic in these areas stopped. Then this thing happened. It was just before 8 in the evening. I was giving my elder daughter an arithmetic lesson. The police chief knocked on our door. He looked like a snowman. He enjoyed sake, and so we were good drinking companions. There were no secrets between us. So I asked him to step in, but he refused. He looked unusually serious. He was just standing there on the earth floor inside the entrance, shuffling his feet. "Well now, I've come today to ask you a favor." He spoke as if it were a matter of life and death. I sensed it must be some extraordinary business, and felt myself grow tense. I put on Geta and led him out to the hen house, where we had set a charcoal brazier to warm the air for the hens. We entered it so quietly, not a hen stirred. We were standing there face to face with the brazier between us. "Please keep this top secret," the police chief said. At first I thought there must have been a breakout from the local jail. I waited in silence for what he had to say. "I think it is the first time anything like this has happened in our town. Kigo, who is related to you, has not presented himself at army headquarters." I felt the shock like a sudden douche of cold water. But I accompanied him right to the gate. "Yes, I know. But the military police telephoned me saying he did not show up. The MPs should have come here themselves, but because of this heavy snow, they cannot make it. They told me to investigate the matter. Now I have something I must ask you to do." "You do not know Kigo, I presume, since you were living in Tokyo a long time. Now that the war is over, I can bring this incident into the open, but it's really not a very pretty tale, so I feel reluctant to go into further details about the man. I'll just refer to him as Kigo. He is a distant relative of mine, a young farmer who was then newly married. When he received his call-up papers, I accompanied him to the gate of the army headquarters. Because he was just a country boy and had never traveled by train before, all the same, according to the police chief, he did not put in an appearance there. I wondered if he had just pretended to go in, and then after I'd left had come out again and scuppered. The police chief continued, I think he has no place to go. He's got to come back to his home, even with all this snow, walking across the mountains, which may take several days. He's not the sort to commit suicide. He'll make his way back home, because he has such a beautiful wife, far too beautiful for the likes of him. So I must ask you to do this for me. You were the go-between for the couple. I know they respect you. No, I'm not pulling your leg. I'm serious. Please go to his house now, and explain the situation as it stands to his wife. Tell her to let you know as soon as Kigo comes home. We'll be able to smooth things over for them. If he can be found within a few days, he will not be punished. This big snow and the suspension of the rail services will provide a good excuse for his tardiness in presenting himself for the army. As you can well imagine, if somebody belonging to this place runs away from his duties, it will be a disgrace for the entire town. For the honor of our town, I beg you to take on this troublesome job. We trudged through the snowstorm to Kigo's house. It was a long walk. On the way, I thought to myself how ironical it was that I should have to undertake a task like this. I myself had been exempted from military service because of my poor physical shape, and this was the kind of man who was now going to persuade a woman to behave like a soldier's wife. I thought it ridiculous. We parted silently in front of Kigo's house, and I went in. Though you've been living in Tokyo a long time, you were born here, so you know the ground plan of a farmhouse in these parts. Inside the entrance, there is an earth-floored hallway, and to the left, there's the stable. To the right, there's a room with a wooden floor. This is a living room which is also used as a kitchen, with a large fireplace in the middle of the floor. Kigo's house is built on those lines. Kigo's wife was still awake, and was doing her sewing by the fireplace. What a good wife you are. Mine is now snoring loudly beside her baby after the evening meal. No evening overtime for her, but you are a good soldier's wife. That's good, very good. With these words of praise, I took off my overcoat and stepped up into the living room. We were relatives, so did not need to stand on ceremony. I sat cross-legged on the floor beside the hearth. Has the old woman already gone to bed? I asked her. Kigo had a blind mother. Mother's greatest pleasure now is sleeping and dreaming, his wife answered with a little smile. She went on sewing. Yes, I suppose so. You seem to be suffering a lot of hardships. But in wartime, everyone has a hard time of it. Just grin and bear it for the time being. If you have any problems, don't hesitate to come and see me. I'll help you. Thank you for your kind words. But you're out late. Did you drop in on your way from somewhere? No, I came here straight from my home. I'm not the sort to beat about the bush. I find that sort of deviousness too much trouble. So whenever I have to enter into discussions, I make it a rule to speak frankly and truthfully, though I am well aware that it may create awkward situations. As a matter of fact, this idiosyncrasy of mine led me once into unexpected trouble. On the other hand, if I try to adopt diplomatic moves, it never works out in the end. So, on that occasion, I told her straight that I had come directly from my home, but she did not seem surprised by it. She put a couple of logs on the fire and resumed her sewing. Now you may think this a strange question. We were classmates in primary school, so that makes us both 37, well, no, in a few weeks it'll be the new year and we'll be 38. So what I want to ask you is, do you still have any interest in women? No, I'm not joking. I've long been wanting to ask this of someone my own age. Well now, I'm bald as you see, have 4 children, and the skin of my hands is so tough and cracked my hands are too rough to touch a woman's delicate clothes. I'm not going to be so bold as to talk about romantic feelings, but physical desire is something that takes you by surprise. When I'm alone with a pretty woman, I occasionally feel strangely worked up. What about you? I see, well, perhaps I have a stronger than normal sex drive, but honestly, an aging, unattractive fellow like me cannot feel at ease and natural when talking to a woman. Of course, I'm not so stupid as to believe I could fall in love with a woman or be loved by one in return. All the same, I get these sudden strange longings. It's not like talking with a man that I can feel relaxed. But with a woman, something like thick mud gets stirred up in my mind. I suppose it's because I lust after her. Don't you agree? Yet on the other hand, there are also rare women who do not make me feel awkward in such a situation. I don't mean old women of 80 or little girls of 5. That's out of the question. I mean a woman who is beautiful and yet makes me feel at ease with her. Such women do exist, though they are rare. I'm all mixed up in my views about women now, but formerly I used to think like this: such women do not arouse uncomfortable feelings in me, because their minds are pure and noble. On the other hand, those women who make me feel hot under the collar are harboring a kind of lust in their own minds. Of course it may be something so vague they are not even aware of it themselves, but this lust of theirs seems to envelop me and make me feel ill at ease. I don't call them lewd women, but I don't like them because, somehow or other, they are nursing a kind of lust within their bosoms. And I respect a woman with whom I can relax, because she must be a woman with a noble mind. Well, Kigo's wife was just that kind of woman. I do not know if it was the same with other men. There are no landowners or tenant farmers now, but this woman was a daughter of a family which had been my family's tenant farmers for generations. She looked intelligent and thoughtful even when she was just a little girl. She was slender and had a fair complexion, unusual in a farmer's daughter. When she grew up, her face, with its prominent forehead and chin, gave her the look of a Haniel no mask. And yet she was attractive, and the local folks spoke of her as a beauty. She's no idle talker, and she works hard. Above all, she possesses that virtue of not making me feel ill at ease. So I took her on, and arranged for her to be married to Kigo. This woman and I are related through Kigo's marriage to her, but not by blood, and though I'm getting old, I'm not yet on my last legs. She was a young beauty, and her husband was serving in the army. Common sense dictates that I should not have been alone with her so very late in the evening, but she was a woman of the type I have described, and I believed her to be a woman with a noble, pure mind, so I did not feel bound by any worldly considerations. As soon as I sat down, I broached the matter. To come straight to the point, I've something important to ask you. Oh? She stopped sewing and looked up at me with a guileless face. It's all right, keep on sewing. Just listen, and keep calm. Listen to what I have to say for the sake of our country, for this town, for this household, for the sake of Kigo, and for your own sake. Your old mother-in-law's, your ancestors', your descendants' sakes, you've got to agree to what I ask. What is it? She whispered. Going on sewing, she did not seem to be surprised. Don't be shocked, though it would be quite natural for you to be shocked when you hear this. The police chief came to see me just now. I told her straight from the shoulder what the police chief had said. Kigo really did wrong, but all of us, tempted by some evil spirit, make mistakes now and then, once in our lives. It's like the measles. It's all the fault of some evil spirit that is born with us. We have to overcome it. Kigo made a mistake. That's all right. It is no use crying over spilt milk. Now it is our duty to do our best so that this matter won't become larger. The police chief has promised me that he will handle this matter sympathetically. He's not the sort of man to go back on his word. He'll hush up the whole affair for us, to save the honor of our town. If Kigo turns up in 2 or 3 days, no action will be taken against him. The chief and I will turn a blind eye on the matter, will not reveal what Kigo has done to anyone in this town. Now I implore you, Kigo will surely come back here. When he does, forget everything else and come straight to me. This is for Kigo's sake, for your own sake, for your old mother's, your ancestors', for your descendants' sakes. His wife had listened without changing color. She just went on sewing, saying nothing. When I finished my tale, she heaved a deep sigh and said, "What a foolish man my husband is." She wiped away her tears with the back of her left hand. You're having a hard time now. I know that very well. But in Japan today, there are many people suffering hardship of every kind. You must stick this out. You must make sure that when Kigo returns, you come and let me know. Today is the first time I've ever begged you to do anything for me. But now, I beg of you, bowing my forehead to the floor. I made a deep bow. Just then, above the noise of the snowstorm, I heard a small cough coming from the direction of the stable. I cocked an ear. Did you cough just now? No, she calmly answered, looking at me inquiringly. Who was that who coughed? Didn't you hear it? Me? No, I heard nothing. She gave a faint smile. I felt a sudden chill, as if I'd got goose pimples all over my body. Kigo's here, isn't he? Don't you deceive me. Isn't Kigo in that stable? My surprise and confusion might have looked funny. She laid aside her sewing from her lap, bent almost double, and gave a giggle. After a while she looked up, biting her lips, as if trying to suppress her laughter. She looked up at the ceiling, and her face was flushed as if she'd just taken a bath. She put a few stray hairs in place. Then suddenly she became serious, looked me squarely in the face and said, "Please don't worry. I'm not a fool. When he comes home, I'll be sure to let you know first thing. I'm asking you to treat him with special consideration." Oh, really? I gave a bitter smile. That cough may have been just my fancy. In a situation like this, women know what to do better than men. Anyway, please be sure to do what I asked you. Yes, I will, she replied reassuringly. I felt relieved and was just getting to my feet when I heard a voice, coming from the direction of the stable, shouting, "You fool! Don't make a mess of your life." The words were followed by a loud noise. When he reached this point in his tale, my friend paused and kept silent for a while. He arranged the charcoal in the hearth with the tongs. "What next?" I urged him. "Was he in there?" Yes, he was. He stuck the tongs into the ash. He had been there for 2 days. Terrible, isn't it? He had come home 2 days before and had hid himself in the stable loft, called the Magi in these parts, used for storing hay. Of course, it was his wife's idea, too. The old mother was blind, so they could easily hoodwink her. The wife took him his meals. That's what Kigo later admitted to me. No, the wife made no confession at all. Even to this day, she pretends she had known nothing. That evening, I told her all I know, and even though I am a man, I bowed my forehead to the floor in front of her, that calm face of hers. It was Kigo who was overcome by remorse, and he tried to hang himself with a rope from the stable beam. The police chief had been hanging round the house after leaving me. Police officer, he instinctively felt it was his duty to do so. He had guessed that someone was in the stable and looked in. He had found Kigo's body dangling there. He had shouted, "You fool, don't make a mess of your life," and cut him down. When we heard this shout, we stood up and looked at each other. She had tilted her head but was looking very innocent. It showed superhuman willpower. Dreadful it was. Anyhow, we hurried into the stable. Kigo had been caught by the police chief. Her lies were now exposed before our very eyes. Yet she looked at her husband over my shoulder and asked him in a low voice, "When did you get back?" I'm sure I'd have really believed she did not know about his return if I hadn't heard the truth later from Kigo. From then on, and to this day, she has never admitted she lied, and just gives a faint smile when asked about it. I could not make out what she was thinking. I had respected her because she did not arouse my base desires, but now I think that women who excite a man's lust in some way or other may be more honest. Anyway, I came to the conclusion that I should never believe a woman's word. Kigo was given the police chief certification and went off to Aomori. He served in the army until the end of the war. Then he came home, and now lives happily with his wife. I rarely visit them, as I was so disgusted with his wife. But how could she tell lies in such a composed manner? As long as women can tell lies like that, Japan can never be a good country. Don't you think so? Women are the same all the world over, but then I asked a frivolous question. Wasn't she in love with you? My friend tilted his head without laughing and answered seriously, "No, she wasn't." The denial was quite definite. Then he grew even more serious and gave a little sigh, saying, "And during my 15-year stay in Tokyo, I had never heard more honest words than these. But my wife and Kigo's wife were on bad terms." I smiled. That concludes today's reading. Thank you for listening to Indigo Audiobooks. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to like and subscribe for more audiobooks.